Well, hello, friends. Happy Friday to you. It's been a very busy week, a lot of volatility, but I'm excited to end the week with you. If you're joining me on the replay, happy replay day to you as well. We're live, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's live level up conversation.
Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Hello, friends. I'm Winnie Sun, your host, Forbes contributor, CNBC council member, and award-winning financial pro, here to keep you on top of relevant trending business news and, of course, share with you some really, really special voices and individuals that I think you ought to meet. But most importantly, you're part of today's discussion, and we're going to be sharing your feedback during a community moment later in the show. But today, I want to welcome you back because we have a very, very special guest with us. Let me just say that she is the number one global voice for working moms. We are in for a treat. But before we jump to her, here's how the market is doing currently, okay? You're going to really enjoy this news. Now, the Dow is currently up 792 points. The S&P 500 is up 84 points. And the NASDAQ, my friends, is up 148 points as well. So far, so good. Stocks continue from yesterday's climb, even as we continue to hear the news out of the Ukraine and Russia. In fact, earlier the Dow boosted about over 800 points right before I started the show. So it's important to know that although we're seeing things like earlier today and also earlier yesterday where the market was down significantly, but there's going to be hope. There's going to be times where things turn around like we're seeing right now. And here's one thing that you know for certain, and you should realize for certain, and that is you can expect more volatility until the offshore conflict is going to be resolved. Of course, there's more news coming out from the pandemic today as well. And we continue to see more news about inflation concerns. And for those of you who perhaps are taking a road trip or looking to drive around this weekend, you're probably also going to notice that at the gas pump, prices have certainly risen quite a bit. In fact, in Los Angeles County, I saw yesterday reports of over $6.15 a gallon in some places. Now, today, though, we are in for a treat because I have a special guest, a friend here to join us. I want to introduce Christine Carter and welcome to their show. How are you, Christine?
I'm well, Winnie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. So proud of you and having your own show.
Well, and you know what? I'm just trying to keep up with you because we got to give you some love because let me just say, it's not even love, it's the bio. You got to hear Christine's bio, okay? Christine has been featured in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and so many other places. In fact, she is the number one global voice for working moms. She's also the best-selling author of the children's book, Can Mommy Go to Work? And she also has an adult novel titled Mom AF. In 2015, Christine created the first national Mommy and Me professional development networking event called Mamapreneur and Me, which was featured in Adweek, Entrepreneur, and countless other places. She is a powerhouse. She's worked with the Congressional Caucus on Black Women and Girls, the U.S. Department of Labor, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on maternal and child care related issues. And actually it goes on and on and on. There's so much more. But most importantly, she's just dynamic. She's interesting. She's a mom. And not only that, she's just such an incredible human being. So I am grateful to have her here with us. Christine, this is a big topic, There's a lot that's happening in the world. And I know there's a lot happening in your world. And I want to get into it. But if you don't mind, I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about your backstory. Let's start from the beginning, where you started, what triggered you finding your own yes factor.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in consumer marketing, and I started when I was just 21 years old. I left a company as their director of marketing and started my own retail marketing firm, and ended up having clients in an economy very similar to today's economy. It was 2008. We were right in the middle of the recession, right on the cusp of it, and it was very difficult for me to secure clients. So I decided to go back to corporate America. And when I did, a year later, I ended up getting pregnant. And once I gave birth early at 31 weeks and 1 day. And I was left with the choice of either continuing my leave or going back early since my daughter was in the NICU at the hospital. And then I could spend time with her when she was discharged. And I chose to do the latter. But once I got back to work, I was not educated about all of the rights and laws that I had from a private industry and from a federal perspective as a working mother. And I was pumping in a bathroom stall. I was trying to Google and research if there were any rights that mothers had, because I had no idea. I was the only woman in the office, the only Black person in the office. It wasn't like someone could really empathize and understand with what I was going through. So after I got through that experience, I decided that no woman should have to go through that alone, and started writing for different publications about what it meant to be a millennial mom in the workplace. A lot of the folks who were reading my articles were entering that life stage with me, so it made perfect sense. So I started writing for Forbes and Inc. and HuffPost and a number of different publications about everything working mom, from the personal side of our lives to the professional side, and decided to become a speaker and a consultant for brands to help them engage and retain millennial moms in the workforce. And we can see now, I think, the importance of mothers, and how much they contribute to our society, to our economy, and how right now they are desperately in need of our support.
They certainly are. That's incredible. I love that life story. I think many working moms, Christine, can relate to that, right?
Yep.
A lot of us go through motherhood. I mean, for the first time is already so overwhelming. We don't know, how to carry the baby. We don't know how to feed the baby properly. There's all these different levels, and we don't know the questions to ask,
That's
right?
right.
Many of us don't. And so talk to me about that. I mean, a lot of people see this as, well, that's unfortunate. You had to go through, you had to, pump somewhere uncomfortable. You were the only one. There weren't things set up. So what made you decide that, this is something I'm going to take on? Because I know you're already very busy. There's a lot of other things, but you decide to go write, you decide to speak. How did this become your passion?
It just became my passion because I've always been an advocate. Just in my nature, when I was 9 years old, I was advocating for my classmates, and I've never lost that. And it's funny because I see that in my children now. But it is that passion to support other women, and the passion to also have to influence them in such a way that is positive and kind of reduces the amount of loneliness and isolation that comes with motherhood, which people really don't understand, so that those mothers can feel empowered, have more positive experiences as a mother, and then in turn raise children who are much more loving and more positive, and are better people in society that my children will encounter one day. It is quite unfortunate that so many mothers return to work after maternity leave and feel like they're not emotionally or mentally ready, and that just continues to snowball through the parenting journey. And I think over half of mothers have considered leaving the workforce, and we saw what the Great Resignation and the exit of women in September of 2020, that mass exodus, did as far as moving women out the workforce to numbers of like 1980s data points, which is just absolutely upsetting. But a lot of women are often forced to choose between motherhood and their career. And I just don't think that should be the case. And I always wanted to be an advocate for the fact that that doesn't need to be the case.
That doesn't need to be the case. I love that. I love hearing you say that. I remember the first time I gave birth, my first child, and I felt like a rush that I had to get back to work ASAP. And it wasn't ideal. But I wonder now with the bigger trend of people working from home, if that's going to, better the situation and that people will feel, mothers will feel like they actually could have it all. We'll see. Let me ask you this, career doula. This is a new term for me. And I love you to explain why you chose this role.
Yeah, so I've recently decided to become a career doula, similar to a birth doula, how they are a trained companion who supports mothers through their significant health related experience of childbirth. I am a career doula and I help women navigate the significant impact of childbirth on their professional careers. So it's not necessarily a career coach, but it is an advocate in the sense that I'm not necessarily a recruiter or a therapist, or I'm performing job searches for folks, but and nor will I speak on their behalf at their organization, but I will give advice and support new mothers on making complex decisions based on my personal experience, based on what I'm seeing in America right now as far as our workforce goes, educating them about what laws are in place within their state and at the federal level, and how to face difficult situations.
Wow, that's incredible. I would think that a lot of new moms um, would find value in that. They probably don't know that this is someone that they can go to, that you're out there for them, advocating for them. Let me ask you this. So, obviously, you do this for career oriented women now. What is your plan to expand your reach?
Oh my goodness. So right now I'm trying to perfect the service. I think about expanding the reach as far as helping other women serve as advocates for other new moms, and perhaps expanding the career doula service with women other than me, because I'm only one person and I think 9,000 babies, the statistic, are is born every day to mothers. So I don't know that I can serve 9,000 women every day. But for right now, the service is just really about helping women with performing mock interviews and words of encouragement before big interviews, reminding them of policies that either encourage or hinder their growth, helping them with tools and resources like a career map, which I featured on Forbes before, learning how to implement and leverage emotion wheel breaks, and writing professional resumes and cover letters.
Yeah, that's important. Like be able to write that and be in that right mindset, right? That
Yes,
is you're ready, you can do this, your
right.
resume looks great. You just need a friend to sometimes pat you in the back and say, come on, we can do this, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
support you. And when you have questions and when you have a down day, you're gonna have this coach in place. Very, very interesting and so important, I think. Well, let me ask you this. So why do new moms returning to work, do you feel like um need this? Sometimes we talked about it already, right? They need resume service, they need that confidence. But it's also sometimes like it's interesting because companies after companies, whether it be small companies or large companies, it still seems like we talk about a lot about other important areas, right?
Mhm.
Diversity, very, very important. We talk about, equal pay being very, very important. But seems like the working mom returning to work, that hasn't been so headline news related. Do
Mhm.
you think that's accurate?
It is absolutely accurate, Winnie. Last year, I saw so many clients, new clients, who had just started a working parents employee resource group. And what they had been doing previously was rolling up their words of encouragement and their services and resources for mothers either into specific diversity groups or under their women's group, which is not the same. I think that every company that adopts employee resource groups should have a working parents ERG. And as far as why new mothers need career doulas, I think the biggest reason is because when you are a new mom, you're bombarded with so many different perspectives. I mean, I think about one of the experiences I had where I threw away an entire freezer of breast milk because I read two different pamphlets that were contradictory and told me that the milk was going to be what had expired. So, just multiply that by the number of women on the planet who are new moms and all of the information and social media. It's just too much. And that's where I come in as a resource that is completely objective. I'm not a friend or a family member projecting my experiences of motherhood. I have the experience of working with a number of different moms, either through social media or as an executive committee member of Mom Congress. And these women who are new moms and are returning to work, a lot of them often don't have a strong network. They aren't very active on LinkedIn, I found. They may not have redefined their career goals after becoming a mother. They might be looking to leverage their new leadership skills that they've adopted because of matrescence, which I know we're going to get into in a second. They may not know about the preconceived notions of mothers at their company. So not only am I providing the career advice, but I'm kind of educating them on what to expect as the new minority in the workplace.
So important. Talk to me about matrescence now. Tell me what this is.
Sure. So matrescence is the first year of motherhood, basically. It is it's almost like the reformulation of your brain. It's this identity transition that anthropologists have termed matrescence. And it's a neurobiological experience, and it is associated with the hormonal changes of pregnancy. So it is what gives you those leadership skills or those empathetic skills that are more and more employers and executives are finding to be so critical in the workplace today.
I love that. Christine, I got to share this with you. I remember when I first became a mother for the first time, and I said this and I wholeheartedly believed it. And I said, being a financial advisor made me a better mother, but being a better mother made me a much better financial advisor.
Mhm.
And I think that is relatable to working moms in all industries,
All
right?
categories. Yep, all categories. Because I could say the same thing about consumer marketing. Being a manager helped me to understand that I was really managing up to 30 different children prior to becoming a mother. And then after, and then after I became a mother, having to communicate and lead somebody who can't speak for themselves helped me to learn all of the different nuances that were associated with communicating that didn't involve speaking. So how I was presenting myself as a professional, or some of the indirect communication and cues that I was delivering, all of that helped me, and I learned it from becoming a mother.
Right. I feel like, it's really interesting because I felt like before I had children, I was sort of always putting other people before myself, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's normal. I think a lot of working women feel that way. But after I had children, I felt like I had a reason to fight for them. And so fighting for them meant putting myself first more, because when I said no to certain things, it gave me opportunity to say yes to having more time with my family, my children, and whatnot. And I think a lot of women can relate to that. I think both fathers and mothers can relate to that. I don't think it's just one. But how do you specifically help these women that you coach?
You know what, Winnie? You are so aspirational because it's actually the opposite. And I literally wrote an article for Forbes today about this, about the relationship between codependency, which mothers tend to experience, and delegation at work, and how codependency can bleed over into the workplace. You'll often find that mothers aren't putting themselves first or setting boundaries because of that codependent relationship where they need to be needed. So they adopt the mother attitude at the workplace too, where it's
Mm.
wanting to hold on to responsibilities instead of delegate, and take on the role of being the office support and mentoring when it's not necessarily needed, or taking on responsibilities like cleaning out the fridge or bringing donuts and coffee. So the fact that you set boundaries and prioritized your personal and professional obligations is very revolutionary. It's not something that is comfortable for a lot of working mothers. So it what my work is really about encouraging them to set boundaries, understanding that it's completely acceptable to delegate and prioritize your career and your worth in the office, because one of the other big problems is they will stall their careers and stay too long in a function or in a department or with a company and not make themselves less marketable.
Oh, interesting. Well, let me ask you this, Christine, because sometimes, and I've heard this from a lot of parents, they say, well, I feel like I can't ask for that promotion, or maybe I'm not giving enough, right?
Mhm,
Versus my colleagues who don't have kids, they can
mhm.
travel more, they can do more, and I feel like I can't. I feel
Yep,
stuck. You
yep,
must hear that a lot. What do you
yep.
say to that?
It's imposter syndrome. So, an imposter syndrome affects a lot of minorities in the workplace. And when you're the only mother in the workplace or the only female in the workplace, that's bound to happen. What's most important is to recognize, and again, this goes back to being a career doula, to recognize some of the preconceived notions that you're up against. More than half of US employees say mothers are penalized professionally, that they're not as devoted to their careers, even as much as fathers. So understanding that and knowing what barriers you're up against can also help you to understand it's not just you, you're not alone in the fight, but also keeping track of your accomplishments. I found a lot of women, especially working mothers, don't keep a professional wins folder on their computer and will just continue to blow past project by project, not realizing at the end of the year or the end of a quarter, even how much they've accomplished.
Wow. Okay, Christine, I have a question about this. So let's say you're a manager or you're the head of a company. You're hearing this talk. We're hearing you, Christine, about the importance of supporting working parents. If they want to make a change, what are some, like, maybe an easy step or not? Like, how do they, if they feel like they want to support their employees who are working parents, where do they start, and what is something that you think they should be paying attention to?
Yeah, so Reshma Sajani, a friend of mine who founded Girls Who Code, she created the Marshall Plan for Moms. And in it is exactly what employers should be doing. It's a solutions playbook. She ended up surveying over 1,000 moms, and their perspective was that organizations need to do exactly what wasn't done for me 11 years ago, supporting moms with access to and information about affordable childcare, helping to reduce attrition, helping to solve a huge crisis that affects moms mentally when they're at work, negotiating discounts on behalf of employees at local child care centers, setting up a working parents ERG, which is a personal recommendation of mine, setting up coffee chats or encouraging informal coffee chats. With clients, I have a proprietary service called Mom Buddy. And what I do is pretty much take a list of the attendees or the attendees of my talks or people who are part of their working parents ERG and anonymously pair them so that you aren't necessarily getting somebody who's within your same demographic that you can learn something from, just to break down barriers and also give you another perspective. So there are so many free to more complex and long-term solutions that employers could be doing.
I love that, Christine. Having a mom buddy at work. Imagine how helpful that will
So
be,
helpful.
right? Exactly. Because you can ask questions that they've gone through and it can give you advice and maybe some perspective. And I would think that would be such a smart recruiting tool for
Yeah.
businesses all over, right? Saying
And
that, right, not only do we embrace your journey of having children, and let's be honest, it's a really smart business decision because, you know, for so many years, I like my children want to know where their parents work, right?
yep.
And so I know I have three, talented children who one day will probably be active members of society. And
Mhm.
perhaps my employer would want them with their work ethic and want to work for my company as well. So so doing this, not only is it the right thing to do, but doing for, even if you're doing for financial reasons, it's a
Mhm.
smart business decision. So doing the right thing can be profitable. And so I think that's what Christine, this is why, this is why I adore Christine on so many levels, but you can see she's thinking very, very smartly. She's not saying give us a free ride, make things, different for us, but just opening your eyes and finding ways to be more empathetic and understanding, and finding ways where we can all work together and increase productivity.
And
Right.
reduce risk. You would be surprised. One of my big clients set up the Mom Buddy program, and one of the mothers who was on the call with another mom, just talking about how they felt personally, started to notice signs of preeclampsia, and told the mother that she might want to consider going to the hospital. And sure enough, she ended up delivering early. So that is the kind of support that you're not necessarily going to find outside of a Mom Buddy program, or outside of encouraging working parents in your workforce to connect.
Yeah, so important. Chrissy, we all know that pandemic has impacted all of us. All of us have been impacted.
Mm.
But we also know that working women across the globe have been heavily affected. A lot of them left the workplace completely because children at home, managing COVID and everything else. You know, we're seeing women slowly coming back to the workforce, yes or no?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the data. November 2021, we were at a 3.9%, I believe, employment. And now we're at 6%. So yeah, 2 months later, we're coming back. It was a much, much worse than that back in 2020. So we're slowly starting to come back. Are we coming back to the same roles? That's another question to be determined. Are we coming back with the same amount of influence within the organization? That's another question to be answered. Are we making trade-offs at home to be able to come back? Are we straining our mental health and our financial resources? Two other questions to be answered.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting. We'll see how this work from home trend continues in the coming months. We're already hearing that a lot of employers are expecting their employees to go back into the workforce starting as early as next month. And
Mhm.
so I think that is certainly a concern for many working parents, right? Juggling not only perhaps a newborn at home or young ones at home, but also pick up, drop off, and childcare as well. In your mind, is there a way to solve the childcare crisis?
Yeah, there absolutely is. I believe that it's a threefold approach. Obviously, employers have to do their part to educate the workforce and provide benefits and solutions for working parents. And then we need President Biden a national paid leave policy. And I know it's not on him, I know it's stuck, but we need that. And then we also need parents to just step up and advocate for themselves, and not accept what is being presented to them by the federal government or by their employer. You have to speak up and advocate on your behalf. Am I cynical at the idea of us getting this three-pronged approach through the across the finish line? I would have to say so. I look back 2 years at the Black Lives Matter movement and how just absolutely devastating that was to our country, and all of the promises that came out of that at the federal and at the private sector level. And I think less than 5% of the funds that were promised to the Black Lives Matter movement or to groups focused to improve the Black communities actually went to Black communities. So if I have to draw a parallel, I think that that's what's making me a little bit cynical. But I'm a mom. I'm hopeful.
Moms still tend to be hopeful, and I'll be
Right.
hopeful for you as well. I do think that I think there is hope, and I'll take a moment. I see so many incredible comments coming in. Vicky is definitely celebrating you and saying she's just giving so much love. So thank you so much, Vicky, joining us on Facebook Live. We're seeing Bill Pace also on LinkedIn Live, really saying that for his employees, he allows them to be 100% remote and provide for work-life balance. Many moms with young kids work for him, so great to hear as well. I see so many. Robin Stevens joining us from LinkedIn Live is happy to be here with celebrating Friday with us. So many people on different platforms with us say we thank you for your support and listening to this very important topic. It's really interesting. I really commend you, Christine, for doing this and bringing this and deciding to advocate for working mothers. I can see how you're inspiring your own children, and that's great. And like we talked about, it's not just a social movement. This is a very smart societal movement, and it's good for business. It's good for our nation. It's good for productivity, and it's good for our future too. Our children need to have present parents, and this is
Absolutely.
not a bad thing.
Absolutely. It's good for our past too, because you have to consider a lot of these women are not only handling children, but they're also stuck in the sandwich generation and they're struggling with adult care. If you think that childcare is hard, I do adult care for my father as well. That is 10 times harder. So
I would
being
say
put in
100 times harder.
Right. So being put in that situation does not help either. But you have to think about how I don't think people really realize how critical mothers are to our entire society.
Absolutely. And you think about like a lot of the things that happen oftentimes is when parents are more active and participating in their child's life, the child tends to be more well-rounded, they tend to be happier, they tend to be better, more productive members of society when they become adults. They tend to be the people that you like to hang out with, you like to vacation, you like as your neighbors.
And your
So this is
strongest
something.
leaders.
Right, exactly, our future leaders. So I think we all have a decision to make. And so even if you don't have children of your own, this is also something that you should be thinking about too, because it will affect you. All right, let's have some fun, Christine. I feel like it's time for speed round.
Okay.
Speed round.
Christine, let me ask you. We basically give you a couple minutes here and we ask you two questions. And this one I think you're going to like because I am very curious to learn when in your life did things just sort of start to click for you? When did you experience your own yes factor?
I experienced my own yes factor the moment I chose my daughter over my career. So I had spent, and this is another thing that we discuss as I am a career doula. We discuss the importance of bringing your authentic self to work and how matrescence truly changes you that first year of motherhood, and you are no longer the woman you were before. You're given birth just as your child was given birth. And I had spent so much time trying to fight that and trying to prove that I was the professional that I was prior to motherhood, but I wasn't. And I remember we had an earthquake of all things here in Baltimore when she was just a couple months old. And I'd already said that I was going to work part time, but it ended up impacting business. And it was better that I stay at the office that day. And I decided, you know what? I'm working part-time. I want to be home with my daughter. This is an emergency situation. I'm leaving. I'm not the same woman I was before. So that was the turning point for me when I started making decisions that put motherhood first.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. All right, question number 2. Christine, you have a very popular column on Forbes, as well as other outlets as well, I should mention. If you could interview anyone in the world, living or past, who would you want to spend an hour with?
Beyonce, always. I'm going to say it to the day I die, hoping that somebody from her team sees it. I've interviewed her mother. Lovely, lovely woman. I am dying to interview Beyonce. I'm a huge fan. I have her hanging up in my office as Mona Lisa, as if she's a family member. That is who I would want to spend an hour with because she is not just a singer. She is not just a mother. She is so multifaceted and so strategic. And I think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned there.
There's lots of lessons to be learned there. And I will say, Beyonce, if you decide to take that interview, I think you're going to find someone absolutely remarkable in Christine. So I think it'll be time well spent. So if anyone you're watching, ping Beyonce, let her know she should take a call and meet up or make that call to Christine and say, hey, I want to meet you, Christine. And,
Yes.
and thank you, Christine, so much. To learn more about what you do, where should people go to follow you?
Sure. ChristineMichelCarter.com. That's Michel, ChristineMichelCarter.com. See Michelle Carter on Instagram and on Twitter, and Christine Michel Carter on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Christine, for being on our show with us today. Such a treat to end the week with you, my friend. And
Oh,
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I may just say, I love spending time with you, Christine. I'm so glad I'm able to share you and your joy and your spirit and your just amazingness with all our friends today. Want to say a big hello. Also, welcome to Brian Schumann on LinkedIn Live, who's just incredible human being as well. CrossX fighter Joshua, thank you so much for being here, Modern Mom. Vicky, all of you, thank you so much for being here and joining us on this special Friday episode and watching, supporting our program. It means so much to me. If you don't mind, take a moment, add some comments, share the show with someone that you care about. And as a reminder, you can now find full episodes of Level Up with Winnie Sun on NASDAQ, the CW San Francisco, Amazon Fire, Roku, and many other places. Be well, and I can't wait to see you again next week. Have a beautiful weekend. Stay safe.
happy Friday, everybody. Take care.
Take care.